My name is Richard E. Nephew, and I'm a counselor for the Seneca Nation. We're here for the 170th commemoration of the Buffalo Creek Treaty. We do this every year to mark a tragic history of the Seneca Nation, but also I guess if there's anything to celebrate is that we're still here and still able to come back to our homeland. The first one of 1838 was really a tragic time for us. It was a culmination of some of the most terrible behavior that human beings engage in, such as bribery and greed, and all aimed at getting the Senecas out of what is now New York State and getting our lands. So it was a terrible time for us. We lost Buffalo Creek, we lost Cattaraugus and Allegheny, Tonawanda at that time in the 1838 treaty. And also it was a pretty dramatic event in United States history. When the Senate went to ratify the treaty, it was a tie vote, and the Vice President of the United States broke the tie, ratifying that treaty. That's a pretty dramatic event in their history. But due to the terrible conditions that an outright and obvious fraud committed in that 1838 treaty, compromise was developed with the help of friends. Actually, the Society of Friends, the Quakers, did a lot to help us at that time, culminating in the Compromise Treaty of 1842, where we regained or kept title to the Cattaraugus and Allegheny territory, but we still lost Buffalo Creek, which was a great prize to many of that wanted our lands. Well, in the 1830s, Buffalo was one of the biggest cities in the country, I believe, and was a port on the Great Lakes for shipping. And of course, we were like the suburbs here at Buffalo Creek. And there was mills, fertile farmland that people wanted to acquire, and also was expected to be the terminus of the Erie Canal down at the mouth of Buffalo Creek. So this was a valuable tract of land that, outside interests wanted very badly. Yeah, I think there was a big difference in the way in the concept of holding land. Even to this day, Senecas don't fence their land. We hold it and use it in a community sense. We have allotments, but we don't fence our neighbors out. That contrasts with the European and American point of view, where everyone is kept out. We don't do that. I think in losing the Buffalo Creek territory, I think it really sunk into our people what we were losing. Great tracts of land were already lost, but losing Buffalo Creek and losing all we had at that time was really devastating to our people, and in many ways I think it was the end of the world to a lot of people. But we need to know our history. We need to know why and how we arrived at today, and it's really also a history, despite the terrible things that happened to us. It's all the Seneca story is also a story about survival and renewal and perseverance against some very heavy odds against us.
The Buffalo Creek Treaty came about at a time when the United States government had decided that the best thing that could be done for the future growth of the United States was to remove all of the native people living in the eastern part of the United States to the west. That was called the removal policy, and it originated in the 1830s. And so this whole fervor of, well, what to do with the Indians, you know, was the sort of dominant federal government problem. The solution was, well, let's just move them to the west. I mean, how much land could the country possibly need? You know, the native people will go to the west of the Mississippi, and then the east will be cleared out for settlement, and everything will be fine. And so the Treaty of 1838 was put upon us through trickery, through fraud, through inducements, and such terrible, awful things that resulted in our nation's extinguishment of our land interests and the relocation of our people to the west, along with the other 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois people. And interestingly enough, the beginning of what, maybe not the beginning, but the continuation of what had been the strength of our people came forward. And the people said, no, we're not leaving. This is our home. We're not going to leave. And over the course of a 4-year period, with the assistance actually of the Quakers and other good-hearted folks who assisted us, we were able to secure a new treaty, the Treaty of 1842, which we commemorate today. Unfortunately, the consequences, it was called a compromise, it wasn't our compromise, it was the federal compromise, was that they forced us to relinquish control over the Buffalo Creek and the Tonawanda Seneca territories. At the time, our chiefs, our leaders had said, well, if it's another land for peace deal to get back our territory, we'll just whittle a little bit away from each, and then we'll all preserve our settlements and we'll all be fine. The government didn't want that because they wanted buffalo. They wanted this land, and they wanted us out of the way. And so too with the Tonawanda territory, too close to the development path that was occurring. Well, thankfully, the Buffalo Creek Treaty of 1842 did secure our nation's land base, and eventually in 1857, the Tonawanda Senecas were able to secure their settlement as well. But it induced a lot of changes in our nation. As a result, and our Seneca Nation of Indians evolved. In 1848, we adopted a constitutional system of government, of which I'm and Richard and Diane, successors of that long tradition of elected constitutional government. The traditional leadership has maintained itself at the Tonawanda Seneca Nation, and from time to time we work together on various issues that relate to our broader Seneca Nation. We're going to keep fighting. We have no choice. It is our natural way. I'm glad we have some of our little ones here today. I brought my kids. They're in the back somewhere. You know, because they too have to realize that we have to fight, fight, fight to protect our treaties, to protect our sovereignty, to protect our people. And I know I'll do it, and I know all of us will. So now, thank you all for coming this morning.